Newcastle have drawn away to bottom of the table Wolves. How has it come to this? That's right, everybody. Welcome back to the Fontainer. There's going to be a lot of stick given to the Newcastle players today for a dreary performance, lackluster. One of the words that a lot of fans are using is toothless. We seem bereft of ideas. We seem bereft of imagination. We don't have that cutting edge, that high energy, and it's pretty obvious that the team are running on fumes. There's a huge call for Newcastle and the boardroom to back the team this winter, to buy new players, to give some much needed lift to the existing squad. The defense is absolutely hanging on by a thread. Lewis Hall is playing unbelievably. He's doing really well. But in this video, I wanted to get down to the root cause or the root problem of why Newcastle just seem to be running out of gas. In this video, I want to cut through the BS and get down to the root cause of why Newcastle are so toothless and absolutely running on fumes. That empty sign is flashing on the petrol tank, and it is really nerve-wracking for most fans going into every game. You don't know what's going to happen. The team that Newcastle put out today was pretty much the full strength side in the attack and the midfield, apart from Jacob Murphy, and how he's still our first choice just shows how poorly Anthony Elanga has adapted to being at Newcastle. We know our defense this season has been the area that has been most affected by injuries. And in the goalkeeping department, we have our first choice goalkeeper. So I don't think we can look at the Wolves game and say that our defense was the problem. We have Malik Chow and Sven Botman, Lewis Hall. Those are three of our first choice. Kieran Trippier wouldn't be our first choice right back. It would be Livramento, but we know that he's got an injury and he's going to be out for at least a couple of months. I see so many fans saying that the way we solve the problem is by getting in reinforcements in the defense this winter. I don't think the defense has been a massive problem. I know Lewis Miley has been deputizing at right back and we don't really want him playing out of position. Malik Chow and Sven Botman are our only two fit centre halves. God knows where Jamal Lascelles is. The guy is absolutely stealing a salary from Newcastle. I think, honestly, the only reason he is there is to fill the homegrown status quota. When last has that guy kicked a ball in anger? He is earning tens and thousands of pounds to be a cheerleader in the dressing room, on the training pitch, maybe a comfort blanket to some people of a time gone by when he stuck with us when we were in the championship, and he was the captain of the club and got us out of the championship into the Premier League. Now, I've heard so many people just say that this is not show, friends, this is show business. This is business. There is always a place and a time for sentimentality, to cherish the heroes of the past, David Ginola, Espria, Shearer, etc., etc. Football is a here and now business. Eddie Howe needs results today, midweek, next weekend. He needs 3 points. He needs to get through the FA Cup. He needs to progress in the Champions League. The big problem is not the defence. Yes, it would be great to have Mark Gahey when we chased him down for the entire window and didn't get anybody. Yes, it would have been great to have get him for £65 million. But we didn't. I think getting a defensive player in this window paves over the cracks at Newcastle. We were at the bottom of the table Wolves. Wolves have won one game the entire season. They've drawn 5. And then same old Newcastle. We leave it to the last 10 minutes to panic and start throwing balls in the box when Voltamore's already off the pitch. And we have 5-foot-something Johan Wieser in the box trying to nick a goal in the dying embers of the game. It smacked of desperation. It smacked of a team running out of ideas. I mean, we had so much possession in that game. From the midfield perspective, we've got Tonali, Joelinton and Bruno. Arguably, that is our strongest midfield. In a couple of days, we are playing PSV at home. We didn't have any opportunity to rest any of our starting 11 for that game. And this is a game, ideally, we need to bank the 3 points to ensure that we qualify for the next round of the Champions League. This is a game where, ideally, Eddie Howe would be 2-0 up 3-0 up, bring off the heavy players, and get the players who are absolutely dying for some confidence in the likes of Jacob Ramsey, Anthony Elanga. But the main issue here is not about having defensive cover. We could have had 3 defenders on that pitch, and I think we would have been absolutely fine. We seem so toothless and blunt up front. Now, a big problem is Anthony Gordon's form on the left, and we know that means that his mate Harvey Barnes has to move to the right. Why are we catering towards a player who has done not much for us this season and looks like his head is turned in the summer or the winter before? He looks like he just wants to be anywhere else but at Newcastle. He did an interview midweek. There's no passion, there's no fire. And I know Eddie Howe had a word with him a couple of seasons ago when he was hooked. That's the Anthony Gordon that we want. We don't want an Anthony Gordon who just, when he gets pulled off, he just goes and sits there on his chair like this. He seems like, oh, well, I've done my job. What have you done? When he plays for England, the guy runs around like he's on heat, trying to chase the ball, chase defenders. He's obviously playing for his World Cup squad. It almost feels that he's now bigger than Newcastle. And I knew that this selling Isak in the summer was going to come and bite Newcastle in the backside. Tonali and Anthony Gordon seem like they're not hungry to be at Newcastle. There's none of that fight, none of that spiteness, none of that chasing down defenders, hunting that ball as if it's life and death. Everything is like, we're now in the Champions League. That is the platform and the stage where we want to shine. Being at Molineux on a Sunday night is not good enough for us. So Anthony Gordon starts on the left, which means our most informed player, Harvey Barnes, the guy who is the most dangerous in front of goal for us at the moment, gets shifted again to the right wing. Why is he shifted on the right wing? Because our superstar right wing that we've invested £55 million for in the summer has got zero confidence. Don't forget, Anthony Elanga came from Man United to Nottingham Forest. And then from Nottingham Forest, that's where he shone. They just counter-attacked with Nuno's team, and they did absolutely fantastic last season to get into Europe. That is not the way that Newcastle play. The other thing is that Anthony Elanga, I personally think, was brought in to sweeten or to keep Alexander Isak happy. Don't forget, these guys are Swedish teammates. We always see Anthony Elanga and Joe Willock laughing and joking when they're in the gym in the Newcastle videos. As I said before, what are you laughing about, guys? A 0-0 draw away at Wolves, the bottom of the table Wolves. It's absolutely not good enough. Anyway, we've got Nick Voltemade up front. I mean, Newcastle missed some headers today. Him, Voltemade and Joe Linton heading practice Monday morning for the first 3 hours of practice. They need to practice their heading. They almost seem scared to head the ball. Scared as if it's going to hurt their forehead. Goals change games, and I think if Newcastle had gone 1-0 up in the first 20 minutes, Wolves would have needed to come out, which would have left more space behind, and then we could have used Gordon and we could have used a Barnes counter-attacking. But this Voltemade thing is not working. He's not strong. He's not fast. He's not strong. He's got a good touch. Newcastle don't play that way. Newcastle are not pinging the ball into Voltemade for him to hold it up and shift it around the corner or to lay it off. He plays for the first 60 minutes. Then Newcastle bring on Johan Wiese, who's a speedy, pacey striker. We then change the wingers as well. We then get to the last 10-15 minutes of a game. We start lumping the ball in the box. Johan Wiese can't get near the ball. That is when we're supposed to have Voltemade on. I am this close to start suggesting Newcastle play without a striker. I would almost play with 2 number 10s as opposed to having Voltemade or Wiese on the pitch. Because we just don't seem like we can score goals unless it's Harvey Barnes playing on the left. Who else is scoring goals for us? I mean, Bruno's come up with a couple of goals. Tonali hasn't scored a goal for us. I don't know what's happened to that guy's confidence. I think Tonali and Anthony Gordon's heads have been turned by the sale of Alexander Isak in the summer. All I need to do is throw my dummy at the cot to get a double or triple my salary deal at a bigger quote-unquote club. I remember Tonali getting the ball when he first came to Newcastle. He never lost the ball. Now, His passes are like Anthony Elanga. He can't keep hold of the ball. But the other question is who is he passing to? Because when he passes it to Voldemort, the guy is weak. He needs to spend way more time in the gym working on his upper body strength to hold those defenders off. If he gets the ball to his feet, Voldemort never ever holds the defender off. He always tries a little trick, loses the ball. This is a huge rant about the players. But that is not the root problem. The root problem with Newcastle is in the boardroom. And the absolute shit show, which was our summer transfer window, is now bearing fruit. The chickens have come home to roost. The fact that Newcastle dragged their feet in sorting out the Alexander Isak issue and sorting out the sporting director issue. Don't forget, Paul Mitchell left the day after the last game of the season. We then had the whole summer transfer window with Steve Nixon, who's our head scout, and Andy Howe, who's Eddie Howe's nephew, doing all of our negotiating and all of our business for us. That is not Eddie Howe's fault. We can criticize Eddie Howe for playing the same tactics or for thinking that he wanted Elanga or he wanted Ramsey and these were his favourite players, etc., etc. He was doing the job of the sporting director. That's not Eddie Howe's job. We have very, very quickly forgotten what happened 6 months ago. 6 months ago seems to have been come and gone. And okay, we've got a new CEO and we've got a new sporting director. But that doesn't fix the issues which happened in the summer. In the summer, we didn't have a sporting director going in to negotiate for players like Anthony Elanga, like Jacob Ramsey. But that's not where the value sits. The value always sits in Europe. Finding Bruno in Lyon. He's now our club captain. That is value for money. We found Isak at Real Sociedad. That was value for money. We found Tonali at Milan. Buying in the Premier League for Newcastle has not proven to be value. We've got Anthony Elanga. We've got Jacob Ramsey. Clubs are going to pull your pants down if you want to buy from another Premier League player. The same way we did to Liverpool when we sold Alexander Isak for £125 million. We pulled their pants down. Because if you are buying from another Premier League club, you are directly strengthening your opposition and your opposition are weakening you. It works completely differently if you're buying or unearthing these gems from Europe. But it's not Eddie Howe's fault that Newcastle, the boardroom or the head of Newcastle, didn't have a CEO and a sporting director for the entire summer of this window. Ross Wilson only came in a couple of months ago. I just want to make sure that when we're looking at these performances and we're very disappointed with 0-0 draws at Wolves, and we are hammering Anthony Elanga and we are hammering Anthony Gordon and we are hammering Voltemada and Visa and the players on the pitch, of course they've got to take part of the blame. But I also think we should just look back quickly and just look up quickly at the board and think, you guys screwed us over here. When last season finished, everyone was really, really happy. We just scraped into the Champions League. Man United beat Aston Villa at Old Trafford, which meant we were in the Champions League. We got 5th place. And Eddie Howe said right at the end of the Premier League last season, we need to be quick. We need to be very super quick and we need to get our business done early. Liverpool went and got Wirtz. Man United went and got Mbumo. Newcastle's first player that we got was Anthony Elanga on July the 11th from Nottingham Forest. The Premier League started this season on Friday the 15th of August. The first player in the door was Anthony Elanga. We then loaned in Ramsdale on the 2nd of August. 3 days before the season started, we got Malik Chow, who has by far been the superstar signing for us, at a steal comparative to Anthony Elanga's money at 35 million. The season had already started and we then got Jacob Ramsey. We then got Voltemada and Visa at the end of the window. Let's not forget, Newcastle played the first couple of games this season without a striker. We started the season with Anthony Gordon up front and we couldn't score a goal to save our lives. Whose fault is that? Anthony Elanga's fault? Anthony Gordon's fault? Eddie Howe's fault? No. We blamed Isak for being the absolute unprofessional person, quote unquote, that he is. Yes, Isak's fault, whatever. We got money for him, fine. That's not Eddie Howe's fault. That's not Voltemada's fault. That's not Visa's fault. The moment that Isak said, I am not playing, that is when Newcastle should have sorted themselves out. I've said this in so many of my past videos. Please go back and have a look. The official website of Newcastle United, a multi-million pound company that has been around for years and years and years, still has their website saying that their senior leadership team is led by Darren Eales. Now, if you don't know, Darren Eales left the club. He was the previous CEO. He was replaced by David Hopkinson. But David Hopkinson came in after the summer window. Ross Wilson, the sporting director, came in after the summer window. And this is why Newcastle are now running out of gas. This is why our strikers didn't have a pre-season with us. They don't know the way that we play. That's why Anthony Gordon wants to leave, in my opinion. That's why Tonali can't be bothered as well. It's because of the summer that we had, the absolute shit show of a summer where we dragged our heels. We tried to get as much as we can for Isak. We didn't anticipate it. There was lies, stories, blah, blah, blah. All spilled milk. Now, in the middle of January, when we're playing 3 games a week, and Bruno looks like he is running on absolute fumes, Tonali looks like he is bereft of confidence, our midfield engine tank looks so empty. Our new players, £100 million worth, are sitting on the bench chewing gum. I can't really see Newcastle pulling anything out of the season. I don't like the answer to the problem being transfers. I think we have enough on that pitch for Eddie Howe to be able to make a team to play a certain way. But he needs some help. He needs some help from the boardroom. And that help means them just doing their job. Just do your job. We are past the halfway point of January. And we are now waiting again for the end of the window before we start saying, okay, yeah, what are we going to do about defensive cover? What are we doing at right back? If Sven Botman gets injured or Malik Chow gets injured, we are then having to dip into the youth team. I am going to share a couple of things here which I think might not be that popular. Personally, when we were in the semi-final of the Carabao Cup against Man City, it was the right thing to do to go hammer and tong in that game. I personally would not have played the full-strength team against Bournemouth in the FA Cup. Now, I know you want to be fighting on 4 fronts and you want to win every competition that you're in. But realistically, we are not in that position from a squad depth perspective to be able to do that. If we had 25, 22, 23 players all fit, all chomping for a first team spot, then maybe yes. But you look at the likes of Arsenal, you look at the likes of Man City, even Chelsea to an extent. They could play A, B and C teams. I mean, they've got so much quality coming off the bench. When Arsenal are ahead or City are behind, they can bring guys off the bench to change the game. Newcastle's players are not changing the game at all. We're playing exactly the same formation, just bringing on fresh legs. It's not about trying to win a game or about trying to remain more rock solid. It's just about, for Eddie Howe, managing fitness. Because in 3 days' time, we've got PSV at Newcastle. That has to be a win for Newcastle. We've then got Villa 4 days after that. We've then got PSG away in Paris 3 days after that. And then 3 days after that, we've got Liverpool at Anfield. Oh, and then 5 days after that, we've got Man City. Is Malik Chow going to be playing every single one of those games? Is Bruno and Tonali and Voltemade and Lewis Hall at left back going to be playing every single one of those games? In the here and the now, we need some reinforcements. We need some fresh legs. We need players who are not just going to be cover for the team. I personally would argue that we need players that are pushing for a starting berth next season. And that doesn't mean we need to go and spend 50 or 60 million pounds on a player somewhere else. We missed the Semenyo boat. We missed the Brian and Buemo boat. We've missed the Mark Gahey boat. Let's forget about that, guys. We are not in that position. We have to be targeting Europe and unearthing. And again, just going to say it, when Dan Ashworth was at the club and his strategy was to go and get Bruno, Isak and Tonali, that was unbelievable business. That was unbelievable scouting and that was unbelievable value for Newcastle. What we've done since then in terms of Malik Chow, that is exactly the formula that we need to follow. Screw trying to go and get your Semenyos, your Gaheys, and your Buemos. They're always going to get gazumped by the teams up in the Premier League, because these players have proven they are the star of their club. Why would you go from at currently being a star at Bournemouth to being at Newcastle struggling to win away at Wolves? Semenyo wants to win Premier League titles, and Mbeumo wants to triple his salary. Obviously, always a little bit disappointing after Newcastle haven't won, especially against the bottom of the table Wolves. But I just think we need to cut through a lot of the BS and stop being so blinkered at what the issues are. Yes, Voltemade doesn't have a good game. Yes, Tonali doesn't have legs at the moment. But I think we just need to step back a little bit, look at the summer. The board needs to take a lot of responsibility. They need to help Eddie Howe out now. They've got the CEO. They need to update their websites. They've got a sporting director. These guys need to do their jobs. I saw a great post today about the training ground, 200 million. Check out my last video. That's fantastic news. A little bit day late and $1 short. It should have happened a couple of years ago. But a training ground doesn't get you 3 points. Because look at Leicester, for example. Leicester have a state-of-the-art, world-class training facility. A great training ground doesn't guarantee you success and results. It improves your infrastructure, of course. But all of the clogs need to be working together. The boardroom, the management, the players, the infrastructure, the finances, everyone needs to be rowing in the same direction. And of course there's going to be struggles. There's always going to be injuries. You're going to have Isaacs and you're going to have Tonali and you're going to have Gordon, etc., etc. But you need to be in front of these things and you need to have people who are getting paid handsomely do their job. And let's stop wasting money on players who are sitting on the bench out of sentimentality. Anyways, if you like what you're hearing, please do give us a like and subscribe. And also, don't forget,